ReviewTheLight. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Fenix LD50. But really quick before we get into it, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click this link right up here in the corner. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, that's this link up here. And then finally, after I complete the full review, I'll be putting the link to that in the description down here. And that'll contain beam shots, runtime graphs, all sorts of great numbers and data and reflections and awesome stuff. So be sure to check that out. So the LD50 is a new light by Fenix. It's got a max of 1800 lumens. I've verified that in my testing, and it is basically like two flashlights stuck together and controlled by a single switch. So we'll see more about that in a second, but it's pretty interesting. So on the box here we've got some of the specs. You can see that here, and some details about the light, and there's that information about the drop resistance and the water resistance, and the throw, max lumens, and all that great stuff. So we're going to go ahead and open it up. My box isn't in the greatest shape because Customs got a hold of it before it got here, but you'll get the idea. So inside we have this little plastic package that includes the light itself, and we've got a couple papers here. We've got the warranty card, and we have a little advertisement card for some other Fenix lights, and we've got the user manual. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the user manual is always helpful to have. The holster here. It's got a couple accessories in this little packet. I'll open it up so you can see better what's in there. But inside we have, everything's probably going to come out at once, the lanyard, this here, and we've got a little O-ring that fell out, a spare O-ring, because those O-rings tend to wear out over time, so they send you some spares. Second spare O-ring, and we've got a little hex wrench here. We'll get to the hex wrench in a second. And then there's, of course, the holster. So the holster is just a pretty standard holster. Got the little Fenix tag on it there. You can see on the back, this is where you're going to attach it to something. Just a little loop there to run a belt through it or whatever you like. The front is a Velcro closure. And then there's the light itself. I'll just slip that in the holster real quick, and then we'll get the holster out of the way. So you can see what it looks like in there. So it can go in head down or head up, but we'll show you what that's like, and then you just flap it over there. So if you haven't noticed by now, it's a flat kind of profile light, so the holster is also a flat holster. That's why it looks a little different than a lot of holsters you've seen. So obviously the interesting thing about the LD50 right off the bat is its shape. A lot of multi-emitter, multi-battery lights, the larger lights, are just big round chunks, and they're getting to be pretty compact these days. But Fenix has taken an interesting approach here. They've got two emitters and two batteries, but instead of having the batteries all along or in a round case, they're side by side, and the battery and the light itself is flat, which means this is going to be pretty compact, pretty easy to slip into a pocket without it bulging or anything like that. So it makes this very portable, which is a very nice feature to have this much output from such a portable light. Even though it's not as small as, like a single cell light, it's not much larger. It's just kind of like carrying two single cell lights stuck together. So we'll take a look here. The LD50 uses two Cree XML2 emitters. Those are currently pretty much the highest efficiency LED emitters you can get, and they get to really high brightness and convert a good chunk of that of their energy to light and not just heat. It does get up to 1800 lumens, but it only stays there for about 10 minutes before it automatically drops down. You can switch it back on if you like, but that automatic drop down, combined with the fact that the high mode is only, if I remember, around 900 lumens, I think, 800. Again, you can check the full review to get the exact numbers that I'm measuring. But the high mode isn't really that much heat. It doesn't create that much heat for each emitter. So it doesn't have any heat dissipation fins, although it does have this cutout section in the body. I'll put my hand behind it so you can see there a little better. But you can see my hand moving around back there, so you can see through. There's this cutout section that's going to help air flow through there and get the heat out away from the flashlight and into the air, so that's nice. Looking at the rest of the body, here's the single button that controls the whole light. You can see the two battery sections there. On the back is this clip. I've already had some comments about the clip, people asking me what the deal is with the clip, because it doesn't look that great to some people. I actually really like this clip design, so perhaps the video I showed before wasn't that great, but the way this clip is, it's a very springy clip. and it makes a kind of a fun sound when you spring it. But yeah, it's a very springy clip material, and it's secured very tightly to the body by these two little hex screws, and that's why it comes with this wrench, this hex wrench there. So you can remove those if you like. And the way that it's set up is there's a groove in the body that the clip is attached down inside the groove, so that most of the clip is just above the groove. And you can see there's just a couple millimeters of distance there for whatever you're clipping it to be. And then it's got this little bump section that goes down inside of the groove, so that whenever you're clipping it onto something, that bump is what's going to provide most of your kind of clipping force. But then here at the end, this does go up above the body of the light, so that it's easy to slip on and off of something there. So I've actually really appreciated this clip design. It slips on easily, and it has a fairly good clipping power. So that's the clip. The rear of the light has two tail caps, one for each of the body sections. You can see also here a little indicator showing you to put the battery in positive end first. It does have reverse polarity protection in case you make a mistake there, but it has a little picture to show you which way it's supposed to go, and that's a standard convention, is to put that in for the positive end in first. You're not going to see it in there really good right now because of the lighting, but if you check the full review, you'll be able to see the picture at the other end. There's springs at each end to make connection with the positive battery terminal there. And I'll go ahead and slip a couple batteries in. It takes 18650 batteries or CR123 lithium batteries. There's a couple other battery types, various chemistries that it can take. But I'll just go ahead and slip those in there. You can see there's a spring down on the other end, and each one of these little caps has a spring on it as well to make connection with the negative battery terminal. That's good for in the event of an impact, or protects the batteries in the flashlight. It also means it can accept slight variations in length. Now, the interesting thing about this is it has these two sections and two emitters, and they pretty much run independently except for they're controlled by the same switch. So I'll show you the user interface really quick. So to turn the light on, if you just click it, it doesn't do anything. So it's kind of like a semi-soft lockout. But then you hold down the light for about half a second, the button for about half a second, and it turns on. So it looks pretty bluish on my screen here because of the white balance settings on my camera right now. If you want to see the real tint, go ahead and check out the full review, or wait until we go outside with it. That'll give you a better look at the tint. But it's just a pretty neutral, kind of cool to neutral white. And so once it's on, this is a quick click, rotates through the modes. We've got the Eco, which I'm guessing stands for economy, low, mid, high, and turbo. So like I said before, the turbo mode only runs for about 10 minutes, and then it shifts down to the high mode. And you can, if it does do that and you still want the turbo output, just give it another click and it'll bump back up to the turbo, but just keep in mind the heat that'll be building up during that time. While it's on, if you hold down the button for about a second, it goes to strobe, and then if you click the button again, it goes back to whatever mode you were using last. It does have mode memory, so to turn it off, I hold down for about half a second and it just turns off. And then when I turn it back on, it comes back in whatever mode I was using last. So there I was using the mid. If I leave it in turbo and turn it off, turn it back on, it comes back on in turbo. So it's got that mode memory, but that only works for the regular brightness levels. It doesn't work for the strobe. So while it's off, you also have instant access to strobe, again by holding down for a second, and it goes to the strobe. And the strobe is a variable speed strobe, the idea being that that's harder for people's or animals' eyes to adjust to, so it can disorient somebody for a little bit longer, I think is the idea behind that. So that's the user interface. Now the really neat thing about this is each battery tube and emitter operate independently. So say I remove one of the batteries here, I can still turn it on and just be using the one side. And it still operates just the same, only with half the brightness, because it's only got half the power and half the emitter. Half of the emitter is working. And then if I screw this back in, you can see it. This comes right back on. And now you'll also notice, while I'm up close here, you can see each of the two beams. When I take it outside, you'll see that the beams converge pretty nicely, so that you can't really tell it's two separate beams. Yeah, so it can run with either side missing, and I'll confirm this in my testing, but it should also run even on the batteries being two different charge levels, which is really nice to have a multi-battery light that you don't have to be super concerned about keeping the batteries at the same charge level all the time. So This has been the user interface and the construction of the Fenix LD50. You stick around for just a second, we will take it outside and give it a shot in the dark. Thanks. Hello and welcome back to Review the Light. We've got the Fenix LD50 howdy here in the backyard, and we're going to give it a shot in the dark. So here it goes. I'll go ahead and turn it on. And this is the eco mode, which I'm guessing stands for economy, like I say. And so you can see the beam pattern here. Depending on how bright your monitor is set to, you can probably tell that there is a good defined circle here that's the hot spot, and that does fade out into the spill, but that is a pretty well defined hot spot. It's fairly large and fairly even over it, so it's not a, as I said, it's not a super throwy light, but it is well focused. So I'll crank it up and you'll be able to see the spill a little bit here. So this is the low mode, and you can see the edge of the hot spot there, and then the spill all the way out to over here. You can see that. So a good wide beam. This is the medium mode, the mid mode, the high, and the turbo. And as you can see, the turbo mode is very bright and really lights up the whole area. So I'm gonna kind of pan around a little bit here. You can see my back gate over there, and on the turbo mode, obviously a lot of light back there on the back gate. I'm gonna look up in some of these nearby trees. You can tell if there were anything in the trees, I'd be able to tell it, or anything like that. So that's the turbo mode, obviously a lot of light. And even if you shift down to, here we are on the high mode, still quite a lot of light to see anything nearby. And we'll also just take a look at the ground on the low mode so you can see. Here we go. On the economy mode, you can see that's plenty of light for getting around in a space that's not huge, but I mean you can light the area nearby you really well, and you probably can't see on your screen, but I see it good. Even the flood, the spill zone is plenty of light for me to see around by. I wouldn't even be worried about tripping over anything with that amount of light. So, and then I'll tighten my tripod back up, and then finally here's the strobe mode. You can see the kind of the variance in the intensity and speed of the strobe. So yeah, there it is. And this has been the Fenix LD50. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and click this button right up here to subscribe to my channel. This one up here to follow me on Facebook, and go ahead and check the description. As soon as it's ready, I'll be posting a link to the full review down there. So thanks, and have a good night.